Hello and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. We begin tonight with the funeral mass of a Spanish priest who died after being infected with the Ebola virus despite being treated by the experimental drug ZMapp. 75-year-old Father Miguel Pajares was the first European infected by a strain of Ebola that has killed more than 1,000 people in West Africa. The missionary was airlifted back to Spain from Liberia on August the 7th. Spain's Minister of Health praised the repatriation procedure and the handling of the case by all professionals and departments involved. His body was removed in a sealed coffin on Tuesday and then incinerated according to health authority protocols. There was no autopsy due to the high risk of infection, according to a hospital statement. Well, ECOWAS officials said Wednesday a member of the West African regional body has become the third person in Nigeria to die of Ebola. A 36-year-old protocol assistant was traveling to an ECOWAS function with Liberian Patrick Sawyer, the man who brought Ebola to Nigeria last month. Now, the assistant had been under quarantine. The country has reported 8 cases of Ebola since Sawyer first arrived on July the 20th. The global chief of the International Federation of Red Cross says its volunteers in Guinea are working to help reduce the stigma faced by Ebola patients and health workers. Ebola survivors and family members of victims also say they are suffering from the social stigma the disease leaves in its wake. One doctor who had recovered from the virus says he did not want to reveal his name to journalists, fearing negative reactions from residents. The IFRC Secretary General says the organization is working hard to destigmatize Ebola.
There will be no acceptance if stigmatization increases. That is why we must work on those 2 points. More respect, more protection for the infected and affected people, which will lead to better acceptance. Therefore, everything our volunteers are doing right now and the strategy we are considering for its implementation at the right scale will help move us in this direction.
Well, Red Cross workers are often in direct contact with Ebola patients and preparing the bodies for burial. In some cases, these tasks have led to attacks on their volunteers by local residents as stigmatization surrounding the deadly virus is rampant. Well, meanwhile, in New York City, many Africans are extremely worried about their relatives and friends as the unprecedented outbreak sweeps through West Africa, a continent away. VOA's Daniela Schrier reports from the Bronx in New York.
Haunting scenes of Ebola victims in West Africa are a common sight on television news. But for many West African immigrants living in New York City, the deadly outbreak is personal. New York City is home to more than 70,000 people born in Western Africa. Many hail from countries hardest hit by Ebola, including Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. Many still have family and friends in those nations, like Leo Frazier, whose aunt lives in Sierra Leone.
Right now, the family is figuring out how to get her more supplies so she won't have to leave the home, because the more, she interacts with the general population, the higher at risk she'll be for contracting Ebola.
Ebola has no known cure, and the current West African outbreak is on pace to infect more people than all the previous outbreaks combined. This is worrisome news in the Bronx, where half of the city's West African population lives. Imam Muhammadu Sokuna leads his community, or Jama, in prayers and collects donations for the sick.
So the community in the Jama, we make a dua, they pray for the people, they are infected for this disease.
The mosque's public relations manager, Bakari Kamara.
As the individuals here also in this community, we advise our members to be careful of anyone that they might think comes from these areas and advise them to, make sure that they look and take doctor's advice, not to have bodily contact with people that will, in a sense, contract the virus.
West African residents expressed hope that the global effort to contain the disease will work, but also frustration that they could not do more to help. Daniela Schrier, VOA News, the Bronx, New York.